Hi everyone, it's Lucy from My Crazy Craft Life. I'm here with my first card from the Scrapping for Less All About Ice Cream March Kit. This is from Collection 1. I used sketch number 3 for this card, and I'm not sure what happened to the beginning of my video footage, but somehow I lost it when I showed how I kind of cut out the circles. So what I actually did was, it's pretty simple actually. I took a piece of the Let's Party by Simple Stories pattern paper. I decided which side I wanted to use, and then I took another white piece and I cut them the same size. I'm making an A2 size card, so it's 5.5 by 4.25. So I cut down the paper and the extra white paper. I put a glue dot, some removable adhesive on there so that I could take them apart when I was done. And I cut out the circles. And what I did was I used the smallest circle stitch die that I have, and I just simply cut them out in a row, kind of intermingling with each other. But why I put the white piece underneath it was because I actually wanted those circles to be colored in. So I just took the circles from the white piece and I left the circles from the pattern paper off to the side, but they needed to match up so that when I put the pattern paper on top, it matched up with the circles that were on the pattern paper. So after I did that, I colored in the circles with similar colors that I was using. I used my chameleon markers to color that as well as the images. I already have the images colored and cut out there. I simply used fussy cut, just scissors, and cut the images out. They're fairly simple images to cut out, so it's not a big deal. And then I will say that this was kind of a big pain in the butt, because where I cut all of the circles out, there was very, very little paper in some areas to try to get the foam tape because I wanted to pop it up. So I decided that I was going to end up using the Paper House ice cream stickers inside of those little circles. So that's where I was pulling out there. I'm still playing around with this foam tape, trying to get it all over on the card to make sure that it stays down and it's stable and all of that good stuff. And I don't know, I was doing some crazy stuff. I took fun foam and I put that on there. Then I realized I needed all these other pieces, so I was cutting it down, and like I said, it was a little crazy, but it ended up working out, so that's okay. And here I was just deciding what placement I wanted the images. I used my chameleon markers, like I said, to color all of the images, the stamped images. And then I wanted some other strips from the pattern paper to kind of match up with the sketch there. And that's what I'll actually end up putting. Oh no, I'm sorry. I put my sentiment just on a white strip that I end up putting down there. I used there, I'm putting the stickers on where the circles are going to go over it, and I really didn't have much rhyme or reason. I was just trying to match up colors that I could actually see the stickers because they're kind of transparent, so I wanted to make sure I could see the images through the colors that I used to color the circles that were underneath there. So then like I said, I just had a really hard time trying to figure out what I was doing with this fun foam. But I ended up, like I said, finally getting it out, and it worked out fine, but it was kind of a pain in the butt. So you might want to think about that if you're going to decide to make a similar type card. And then I'm just kind of piecing everything together. I end up cutting, because I wanted the strip of orange that I'm putting there from the pattern paper to fit around the circles, so I'm just kind of drawing a line and cutting them out so that it matches up there, and then I'm going to put that down there. I'll end up putting the sentiment on there, And then the images, I do just play around with them to see what I like best and how I like it best. And I end up putting some images on the top. The little spoons that are in the Lawn Fawn Treat Yourself stamp set. I did not initially pop that up, as you can see I was going to, but the first image that I had in the center I did not pop up, but in order to give it a little bit of dimension I did want to pop the other ones up, so I popped the last two up that I put on each side of it. And the lids I just simply taped down. I used some liquid glue to adhere the spoons down, and I used some Spectrum Noir sparkle pen on the ice cream and the labels of the tubs, and then I get some sequins and pop some sequins on there. So that is really the gist of that card. It was a little challenging, but one's a pretty special card because the stamp that's in this collection is a 1-year anniversary flavor of the month stamp. So in the beginning there, you can see I learned this trick from watching Jennifer McGuire videos. You take a Sharpie or a black marker and kind of go around the edges of your die cuts or your cutout images, and it just kind of makes them look a little more finished, so that's what I was doing. So here I was just going through the different pattern papers, which are Birthday Blowout by My Favorite Things, and I was deciding on what I wanted to do. And I decided I wanted to have that one lighter white page as the background for the stamp, and then I'm just picking around. I'm sorry, my children and my husband are acting like fools, so I'm sure you can hear them running around and screaming here. But anyways, so I was going through and trying to figure out which pattern papers I wanted, and I am using Sketch 1 from that you can download off the Scrapping for Less site for this kit. And I am just cutting the papers, deciding which ones I want where and how I want them. And then one of the other things I did was I used the buttons, the ice cream buttons by Buttons Galore that came in this kit. And here's a little tip for you that I didn't realize was going to happen. But I snipped off the backs of all of the buttons so that I could put them flush against the card when I was gluing them on there. And when I snipped off the backs of them, the buttons themselves came apart in layers because they're a layered button. So I ended up having to glue all of them, and I just used strong liquid adhesive for that to make sure that those stayed together because they are kind of thick. I used sentiments from the 1-year anniversary sentiment stamp that came with Banana Split Level Cake, or Banana Split Level Cake, the Banana Split Level Kit. And it says, "You're my favorite flavor of the month." So that's kind of what I decided to do with the stamp and how I kind of tied it together to create a card for a birthday type card. So here I'm just, like I said, I stayed pretty true to the sketch itself. I'm going to pop on the different pieces and the sentiments. And you can see there I kind of ripped the paper because I don't know what I was doing, but I ended up ripping the paper. But I was able to cover it up with the stamped image, so it was fine. And then that button hid the rest of the part that I messed up on. Then I decided I wanted to pop that up, which I really probably should have done before I put the button on there, but it worked out okay. So I popped that up with some fun foam, and then I'm just going to pop that onto the card with the rest of the pieces. I do end up picking up and taking the Spectrum Noir sparkle pen, the clear one, and coloring in the lined image that was colored in the stamp, and then the flowers I also did with the sparkle pen. And then I added on the rest of the buttons, and that is pretty much so I'm going to be making this card. I am using sketch number 4 for it. And you see my images I've already colored there. And I did use Prismacolor pencils to color the girl in the green, which is the one I end up using for this card. I used that Gamsol and blending stump with the Prismacolor markers for the little Ice Cream Marcy by La La Land. Now, I was playing a lot with this card, trying to figure out papers and colors I wanted and which ones I wanted to go together. And then I was trying to stay pretty true to the sketch, and I was having a difficult time reading the measurements even with my glasses on. So I don't know if it's because the measurements were really small or if it's just because I can't see, but that's what was going on. So yeah, I played with this for a long time, figuring out exactly what I wanted, how I wanted it, what I wanted. And I was originally going to use one sentiment, but I ended up changing it, and I used the sentiment that was actually with the stamp. I actually cut the sentiment apart from the stamp. I know people don't like to do that, but it works. I know I've watched Jennifer McGuire do it for a long time, so I've been doing it for a while, and like I said, it's fine. You can piece together new sentiments. It's actually kind of cool. You get kind of a new stamp set when you do that. But in this, I was using the Beach Babe by Pink and Main pattern paper. I used the Gumdrop Green, My Favorite Things cardstock that came in the kit for the base. It's a standard A2 size card, so it's 5.5 by 4.25. And as you can see, I used some fun foam to pop up the panel that I am putting the image on, and then I also used some foam tape to pop up the image of the girl because I wanted her up there too. So I end up looking around for that, and I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do. And I wanted to use the Your Sweet line border die that came with the banana split level cake. So I ended up cutting that in a piece of turquoise scrap paper that I just had here in my scraps. And I ended up using that because I thought it kind of went well with the theme and the way that it was. It turned out really cute. I was really happy with how the card ended up because, like I said, I don't know why I was having a difficult time figuring out which paper I wanted and stuff. I did die cut 2 of them out, and then I glued them together because I wanted to make it a little bit thicker, a little bit sturdier. And it is longer than the card because I did do a vertical card. So all you have to do is snip off the ends of it so that it ends up fitting on there. So my card is just about pieced together. I'm just kind of taking the tape off, positioning everything where I want it to go. I end up using some of the Kennedy Gray sequins that were in the kit, and I also used the Gina Marie Paradise matte enamels on the end of the kit. So you can see I kind of went back and forth on how I wanted to do it and what sentiments I wanted to use and what I was exactly going to do. And I just stamped the sentiment right onto the pattern paper. I used VersaFine black onyx ink, and that works great. It's really dark. You get a really clear image with it all the time. So I do like to use that, especially when I'm using something that may be a little harder to read if it doesn't stamp perfectly and exactly perfect. I also used my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen because obviously I can't make a card without using that. And I put that around some of her hair. I put it on her shoes, on the outlines of the pockets, and then on the actual ice cream from the ice cream cone. I also lined the Your Sweet die cut with it, just to give that to a little extra sparkle. So I know I talked about it before in some of the other videos, but I am just super excited to be on the design team for Scrapping for Less because I really do love this kit. I think it's one of the best kits out there, especially if you're new to card making, because it's such a great stash builder. It gives you so many different things, and especially if you get the banana split level, you get dies or stamp pads and all different things each month. So I just card I'll be making today. As you can see, I kind of like to make interactive cards, but not only ones that are interactive, but also useful. So when I got started here, I took the stamp, which is from Collection 4, the Ice Cream Chicks by Stamping Bella. I stamped it on a piece of the, white, solar white, white solar crest cardstock. We'll get it out there. That came in the kit. And then I cut it out with a tag die that I have in my stash. Now tags are really easy to make, so you don't have to have dies, but I have them and I was using them. Here I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to use. I picked a couple other tags or papers to make tags from the collection, and the collection is Happy Hooray by Pebbles, the paper collection is. And so I picked those papers out. I used a different tag die that I had and I cut those out. And then I was just trying to figure out placement and where I wanted it and what I was doing. I am using sketch number 2 on the sheet for inspiration, so that's kind of where this is coming from with the tags. I used my chameleon markers to color the stamped image. And then for the card base, I ended up using the Red Hot My Favorite Things paper cardstock that came in the kit. I picked up a little broken china and just blended it around the image so it just wasn't quite so stark white. And I ended up pulling some twine from my stash, and then that red rosette that I have sitting there, I pulled that from my stash. Now rosettes are really easy to make, actually. They you just use about a 12-inch piece of paper, make it half the size of the size you actually want. So if you want a 2-inch rosette, you're going to make about an inch wide paper strip, so it's 12 inches by the inch. And then you're going to score it every half inch, fold it down, kind of fold each of the half an inch all the way down the 12 inches, and then kind of pop that down and glue a button like this one has on it, or another piece of paper or something to stabilize it. And that's how you make a rosette. So they're pretty easy, like I said, but this one was in my stash. So here I wanted to put something on the tags that I created, or that I cut out. So I'm using, excuse me, I'm sorry, I have a terrible sinus thing going on. But I decided to pull some stamps. I'm actually using stamps out of the 1-year anniversary sentiment stamp here. And I decided I wanted to heat emboss them with some white embossing powder. And then for the other one, I'm using more sentiments and stamps from the sentiment stamp. And I'm going to heat emboss those as well, this time with some purple. I was trying to make sure that I had something, and as you see, of course, I didn't use my embossing powder, so I end up having to use a little paintbrush that I just have in my thing. And you see there how it screwed up so bad after I did it that I decided I needed to do it again. So I stuck my head in there because I ended up having to do it on the same side because it is, one-sided pattern paper, and I already had them cut out. So I wiped off the embossing powder. Thank goodness I didn't actually heat emboss it. And I redid it I used the embossing powder tool so that I was able to redo it, and it ended up coming out fine. So just a little tip, if you don't actually emboss it yet and you don't use something that stains it, you can actually take that off. Um, so after I finished those up, I had some twine, like I said, from my stash, and I'm going to figure out my placement, get the twine going, put that in there, and then, like I said, I wanted to make this kind of interactive, so I end up using some glue dots to make sure that they're removable so that we're able to move them around. And I wanted, when they pulled the tags off, to actually use them, or if they, just took them off, I wanted the card to still look pretty like a card. So I tied some twine around there, and I took one of the ephemera from the kit. It says birthday wishes, and then I kind of hid that with the tags. I decided to, like I said, put that rosette on there next to the twine. I popped it up on with some foam tape so that gives it a little more dimension when the tags are taken off of it, so it looks a little more. And then there I'm putting the tags on with the glue dots. So overall, it's a pretty simple card, and as you can see there, I saw that the markers actually went through, so I made another tag the same size and just stuck it on the back there. So I just doubled it up, and then I put the twine on there, got everything all ready, and then I'm just going to pop that down, and that's it. So you can see, you can remove them, you stick them back on, you can send out your card, and it gives you a nice little something extra. I decided that the ice cream needed some Spectrum Noir sparkle pen and the drippings of ice cream that are on the ground there. So I did that, and that's it. That's the card for my last and final card for this kit. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for stopping by. Have a great day.